Pass the gravy, failure. My brother David smirked across our parents' perfectly set Thanksgiving table. Mom pretended not to hear, too busy arranging her designer table settings for the perfect Instagram photo. I handed him the gravy boat worth more than what they thought I made in a month. If only they knew about the offshore accounts, the shell companies, the careful chess game I'd been playing for the last 3 years. Sarah, Dad sighed, using his disappointed executive voice. Surely by now you could find something stable? A real career. I took a sip of wine, a $3,000 bottle I'd brought but they assumed was cheap because I hadn't boasted about it. I'm doing fine with my current work. Fine. Mom scoffed, finally satisfied with her place settings. You work from coffee shops. You can't even afford a proper office. Those coffee shops were actually my satellite offices, scattered across the city. My real headquarters occupied the top floors of the Millennium Tower, but they'd never bothered to visit. At least she's not asking for money anymore, David added, straightening his new Rolex, a gift for his recent promotion at Stellar Communications. The same company where our parents had worked for 20 years, and the same company I'd spent 3 years quietly acquiring. My phone buzzed discreetly. Marcus, my CFO. Final shares secured. We own 62%. Board meeting scheduled for Monday. How's the startup life? Dad asked mockingly. Still doing that consulting thing? By consulting, he meant building a $4 billion investment empire that had just acquired his precious company. Then yes, I was still doing that thing. It pays the bills, I replied mildly, watching Mom wince at my cheap blazer. She'd never recognize a bespoke Armani when it wasn't displayed with proper affluent fanfare. Bills for what? David laughed. That tiny apartment, your used Honda. The tiny apartment was actually the penthouse of the building I owned. The used Honda was a carefully chosen prop, parked next to my collection of supercars in my private garage. Speaking of bills, Mom brightened. David just got another raise at Stellar. Vice President of Operations now. Following in your father's footsteps. My phone lit up again, photographs of the new Stellar Communications sign being manufactured. The one that would show its new ownership on Monday morning. Stellar's doing very well, Dad boasted. Stock's up since we modernized the sales division. Modernized? I couldn't help asking. You mean the automated system that's full of security holes? Dad's face darkened. Now, Sarah, just because you played with computers in college doesn't mean you understand enterprise-level systems. If he only knew those computer games had led to me developing the software that half of Silicon Valley now used. The same software that had helped me track Stellar's vulnerabilities. How's the pension fund doing? I asked innocently, knowing exactly how it was doing. I'd spent months documenting their mismanagement. That's not something you need to worry about, Dad dismissed. Complex corporate matters are better left to professionals. My phone buzzed again, Marcus updating me on Monday's schedule. 9 a.m. board meeting. 10 a.m. ownership announcement. 11 a.m. press conference. 12 p.m. staff meeting to announce restructuring. Still, Mom sighed, it's not too late to join the real world. Patricia's daughter works in HR at Stellar. She could help you apply for an entry-level position. I bit back a smile, thinking of Patricia's daughter, who'd actually been helping me document workplace violations for the past year. I'm happy with my work, I replied, checking another message from Marcus. Security cards and system access updated. Old management credentials expire Sunday midnight. Happy? David snorted. Living hand to mouth, no stability, no real success? At least when you were in tech you had potential. Oh, the irony. My tech ventures had funded the very takeover they'd soon witness. Success isn't always visible, I said carefully, watching Dad roll his eyes. In our world it is, he declared. Look at Stellar, 30 years of visible, tangible success. That's what real business looks like. I glanced at my watch, a subtle Patek Philippe that probably cost more than David's yearly salary. In less than 72 hours their definition of real business would be completely upended. Speaking of Stellar, Mom added, the company gala is next month. David's bringing that lovely investment banker he's dating. Sarah dear, perhaps you could find someone suitable? If you can afford a proper dress. My phone lit up one last time, the final confirmation. All paperwork filed. Stellar Communications is officially under new ownership. Monday's announcement cleared by legal. Actually, I smiled, tucking my phone away. I think I'll be pretty busy at Stellar next month. Lots of changes coming. Changes? Dad frowned. What would you know about Stellar's plans? Let's just say. I raised my wine glass. I've been doing more than just playing with computers. They laughed, dismissing my comment like they'd dismissed every achievement I'd ever had. But their laughter would freeze in their throats on Monday morning. After all, nothing says, Happy Thanksgiving, quite like serving your family a cold dish of corporate takeover. Monday morning arrived with the crisp tension of an approaching storm. I stood in my real office, the penthouse suite of the Millennium Tower, watching the sun rise over Chicago's skyline. Below, employees streamed into Stellar Communications, blissfully unaware their world was about to shift. Your father just arrived, Marcus reported, tablet in hand. Straight to his corner office as usual. Your brother's running late, apparently his key card had technical issues. I smiled, adjusting my Saint Laurent suit. How unfortunate. Has he tried calling IT? IT's a bit busy this morning, Marcus grinned. System-wide updates and all. My phone buzzed continuously. Wall Street Journal on standby. Bloomberg crew in position. Security teams ready. Mom. Sarah, why isn't my building access working? The last message made me smile. Of course, she'd try to go shopping with her corporate card one last time before the announcement. The board members are assembling, Marcus continued. Most already know, of course. The ones that supported your father are less informed. I checked my reflection in the floor-to-ceiling windows. Gone was the carefully cultivated image of the struggling consultant. Today I looked exactly like what I was. A billionaire CEO about to claim her throne. Ms. Walker, my assistant called, your brother's trying to reach IT about his access card. Should I have them assist him? Let him stew, I decided. He can use the visitor entrance like everyone else who doesn't actually work here anymore. The elevator dinged, delivering Patricia's daughter, my inside source and newly appointed head of HR. The termination packages are ready, she reported, including the special ones for family members. Perfect timing. I checked my watch. How's the mood downstairs? Tense. Your father's called 3 emergency meetings already, but the board members keep having connectivity issues with their laptops. Amazing how technology fails when you want it to. My phone lit up with another update from Marcus. Your mother's at Nordstrom. Corporate card declined. She's causing quite a scene. Send a personal shopper to assist her, I instructed. Make sure she understands her family discount ended at midnight. The morning sun caught the edge of the new company sign, still hidden under wraps. In 1 hour, Stellar Communications would become Walker Industries, my name finally claiming its place in the Chicago skyline. Your father's attempting to access the secure servers, IT reported. Should we let him see what he's looking for? Give him access to the acquisition documents, I smiled. Let him spend his last hour as CEO trying to figure out how he lost his company to his failure daughter. The minutes ticked by like perfectly placed chess pieces. Each move I'd planned over 3 years falling into sequence. 8:55 a.m. Board members' old security access expires. 8:57 a.m. New company signs unveiled worldwide. 8:59 a.m. David's office access completely revoked. 9 a.m. The crown jewel, the all-hands meeting where Daddy's little disappointment becomes everyone's new boss. Sarah. David's voice carried across the lobby as I entered Stellar's building. Something's wrong with the systems. My office won't open, my login's frozen. IT must be overwhelmed, I replied smoothly. You should take it up with the new management. New management? He frowned. What are you talking about? And why are you here? Board meeting, I smiled, walking past him toward the executive elevator, my elevator now. You should head up to the all-hands meeting. Big announcements today. But that's for executives only, he protested. You can't. The elevator doors closed on his confusion. Through the glass walls, I watched Chicago wake up to its new reality, one where success wasn't inherited but earned. In the boardroom, Dad was already red-faced, surrounded by papers, acquisition documents he was seeing for the first time. "This is impossible," he was saying as I entered. "These shell companies, these purchases. There must be a mistake." "No mistake, Robert. Our CEO now my CEO confirmed. Stellar Communications has been acquired. The new owner is right here." I stepped forward, enjoying the way Dad's face went from red to pale. "Good morning, everyone. Shall we begin?" The boardroom fell silent as I took my place at the head of the table, Dad's chair, though he was still standing, clutching documents with trembling hands. As of 9 a.m., I began activating the presentation screens. Stellar Communications is now Walker Industries. For those who haven't been following the acquisition process. I glanced at my father. "Let me catch you up." The screens filled with 3 years of meticulous planning, every share purchase, every shell company, every strategic move they'd been too arrogant to notice. "These signatures," Dad's voice cracked. "These authorizations. All legal," I confirmed. Amazing what people don't read when they assume they know everything. "Remember that pointless startup you mocked last Christmas? It was a holding company. One of many." My phone buzzed. Security updates. David attempting to access executive floor, denied. Mrs. Walker's corporate cards all deactivated. Press assembling in main lobby. "Mom. Sarah, please call immediately. My cards aren't working." "This is a hostile takeover," Dad declared, finding his voice. "Hostile?" I raised an eyebrow. "Like telling your daughter she's a failure? Like mocking her career choices at every family dinner?" "No, Dad. This isn't hostile, it's just business." The boardroom doors opened as Marcus entered with more documents, termination papers specifically. "Your severance packages are generous," I continued. "More generous than you deserve, given the state of the pension fund you've been mismanaging." Dad's face paled further. "The pension fund is being fully restored," I cut him off. "Along with the benefits you cut from lower-level employees to fund your executive bonuses. Speaking of which," the screens showed more figures, years of financial misconduct I'd carefully documented. "The SEC might have some questions," I noted, "but I'm willing to handle those internally as long as the transition remains smooth. You can't just walk in and take over." David burst through the doors, security trailing behind him. "We built this company." "Built it?" I laughed. "You inherited it. And nearly destroyed it with outdated practices and nepotistic hiring. Check the real numbers, David. If you can understand them." The screens shifted to show Stellar's true financial state. The losses they'd hidden, the contracts they'd mismanaged, the technology they'd failed to update. "Walker Industries," I continued, standing to face the window, "will be different. Merit-based advancement. Modern systems. Actual innovation instead of coasting on past glory." My phone lit up with more updates. New signage revealed worldwide. Stock up 40% on acquisition news. Your mother trying to access the executive lounge blocked. Forbes requesting exclusive interview. And us. Dad demanded. "Your family." "Family." I turned back slowly. "Was it family when you called me worthless at Thanksgiving? When you mocked every achievement I had? When you told the board not to consider my technology proposals because Sarah doesn't understand real business?" Through the windows, I could see the new Walker Industries sign being unveiled, my name replacing theirs in the Chicago skyline. "Your positions have been terminated," I stated flatly. "Your access revoked. Your benefits restructured. You'd throw your own family out?" Mom's voice came from the doorway. She'd finally arrived, probably after trying every premium store in Chicago with her now-defunct corporate cards. "Like you threw out Janet from accounting?" I countered. "A single mother who dared to question your expense reports? Don't worry, she's my new chief financial officer." The morning sun filled the boardroom, highlighting the stark contrast between my crisp Saint Laurent suit and their increasingly disheveled appearance. "The press conference is in 20 minutes, I informed them. "You're welcome to stay and watch. From the public lobby, of course. Your executive floor access has been revoked." "This is business suicide," David tried one last time. "The clients won't stand for." "The clients?" I pulled up more data. "You mean the ones I've been consulting for through my coffee shop meetings? They're quite excited about the modernization plans you repeatedly rejected." Security appeared at the doors, a clear signal that their time was up. "Oh, and David?" I added as they were escorted out. "That lovely investment banker you're dating? He works for me." Those dinner conversations about Stellar's weaknesses were quite informative. The doors closed on their shocked faces, leaving me alone in my new boardroom. Below, press crews gathered to document the fall of one family's empire and the rise of another's. My phone buzzed one final time, a message from Marcus. "All systems transferred. Walker Industries is officially online. Your father's trying to call his lawyers. Send them my regards," I replied. "And the documentation of their own conflicts of interest." I stood at the window watching my name glitter against the morning sky. Sometimes revenge takes patience. Sometimes it takes planning. And sometimes, it takes showing your family exactly what a failure can accomplish. Time to address my new employees. After all, they deserve to know what real leadership looked like. The next few weeks unfolded like a perfectly orchestrated symphony. Every morning, I watched my parents struggle with their new reality from my office windows. Dad tried consulting, but his outdated methods found no takers. Mom's social circle evaporated once her country club membership was revoked. David, ever the opportunist, attempted to launch a rival firm, only to discover that his only real skill had been nepotism. Meanwhile, Walker Industries soared. Our stock doubled in the first month. The modernization plans I'd proposed years ago transformed the company into a tech powerhouse. Employees who'd been overlooked under the old regime finally got their chance to shine. The ultimate irony came 6 months later, when Dad applied for a mid-level position at Walker Industries through a recruiter, not realizing it was his daughter's company under a subsidiary name. "Should we interview him?" Marcus asked, barely concealing his amusement. "Schedule it," I decided. "But have Patricia's daughter conduct it. I want him to explain his extensive experience to someone he once dismissed as just a secretary." The video of that interview, Dad realizing mid-boast who owned the company he was begging to join, became something of a legend among the employees. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's watching those who doubted you realize exactly what they lost. In the end, I did give them something, perspective, and that, unlike their company, was priceless.
Sarah's text lit up my phone during a board meeting. Mom's having her 60th birthday party at the Grand Haven Hotel. She says you're not invited to the VIP section. James agreed with her. My own husband, siding with his mother again. I kept my expression neutral as I ended the call with our Tokyo investors, my finger hovering over my sister-in-law's message. The irony would have been laughable if it wasn't so painful. The Grand Haven Hotel was just one property in the luxury hotel chain I'd built from the ground up over the last decade, a fact my mother-in-law, Margaret, had no idea about. To her, I was just her son's trophy wife, a pretty face who'd trapped her precious boy into marriage. "Ms. Chen, the Singapore team is ready for their update," my assistant Andrew reminded me. I nodded, pushing thoughts of Margaret's party to the back of my mind. I had an empire to run, even if my in-laws thought I spent my days getting manicures and shopping. The thing about assumptions is that they're easy to make and hard to correct. When I met James 5 years ago, I was already a successful businesswoman, but I kept my professional life private. My company operated under my Chinese family name, Chen, while I used James's surname Williams in my personal life. It wasn't intentional deception, just a separation of worlds that had proven useful over the years. Margaret had made her opinion of me clear from day one. "A girl from nowhere," she'd said to James, loud enough for me to hear. No family connections, no proper education. She'd never bothered to ask about my background, and I'd never bothered to correct her assumptions. James, eager to keep peace, had always brushed off his mother's behavior. "It's just how she is," he'd say. "She'll warm up to you eventually." 5 years later, I was still waiting for that warmth. I finished my calls and pulled up Sarah's text again. The party was this weekend, a lavish affair for 300 guests at my flagship hotel. Margaret had been working with my events team for months, though she'd never met the owner. Me, she just dealt with the managers, throwing around James's name to demand special treatment. "Andrew," I called. "Get me Thomas from the Grand Haven." Thomas, my hotel manager, answered on the first ring. "Ms. Chen, I was just about to call you about Mrs. Williams' birthday party. She's been quite demanding. I could imagine. Tell me everything. The list was extensive. Margaret had insisted on the presidential suite at a discount because her son was friends with the owner. She demanded exclusive use of the VIP lounge where she planned to host an intimate gathering for select guests after the main party, a gathering I wasn't invited to despite being her daughter-in-law. She mentioned you might come, Thomas said carefully. She was quite specific about where you should be seated. In the back, by the kitchen entrance. Of course she was. I pulled up the guest list on my laptop. All of Hartford's elite would be there. Judges, politicians, old money families. People Margaret had spent her life trying to impress. People who, ironically, I often sat with in board rooms and charity committees, though she didn't know that. Thomas, maintain all her arrangements, I decided. But I want the security team briefed, and make sure Vincent is bartending the VIP lounge. Vincent was our best mixologist, and more importantly, he knew exactly who I was. The day of the party arrived bright and clear. James had left early to help his mother prepare, leaving me to get ready alone. Mom thinks it's better if we arrive separately, he'd said, not meeting my eyes. You understand, right? I understood perfectly. I chose my outfit carefully, a simple black Chanel dress, elegant but understated. No need to compete with Margaret's guaranteed extravagance. I arrived exactly on time, walking into the grand ballroom I'd helped design 3 years ago. Margaret had outdone herself. Ice sculptures, champagne fountains, a string quartet playing in the corner. She stood holding court near the entrance, resplendent in a red designer gown, James dutifully by her side. Oh, you came, she said when she spotted me, her smile not reaching her eyes. The general seating is that way. James, darling, help me greet the mayor. I watched them walk away, noting how James's shoulders tensed. He knew what his mother was doing was wrong, but he'd never stand up to her. Not without a push. I made my way to my assigned table, next to the swinging kitchen doors. A few other outcasts were seated there. The second cousins Margaret tolerated, a neighbor she felt obligated to invite. They avoided my eyes, not wanting to be associated with the snubbed daughter-in-law. The evening progressed exactly as Margaret had planned. Dinner was served, speeches were made, and then came the announcement about the VIP gathering in the exclusive lounge. Only those with golden wristbands. Margaret trilled into the microphone. James, make sure all our special guests find their way upstairs. I watched as half the party made their way to the elevators, golden bands glinting on their wrists. James cast a guilty look my way before following them. Perfect timing. I pulled out my phone and texted Thomas, time for phase 2. The next hour was a masterclass in subtle revenge. First, the air conditioning in the VIP lounge mysteriously malfunctioned, blasting heat instead of cool air. Then the premium liquor bottles kept coming up empty when Margaret's favorites were ordered. Small inconveniences, nothing too obvious. I sat at my kitchen-adjacent table, sipping champagne and waiting. 3, 2, 1. Right on cue, Margaret came storming out of the elevator, her face flushed with anger and heat. Where is the manager? She demanded. This is unacceptable. Do you know who I am? Thomas appeared, perfectly professional. Is there a problem, Mrs. Williams? Everything is a problem. The air conditioning, the drinks, the service. I want to speak to the owner right now. Of course, Thomas said smoothly. Ms. Chen is actually here tonight. Margaret's face turned triumphant. Finally, where is she? I stood up from my table by the kitchen, smoothing my dress. Right here, Margaret. The silence that fell over the ballroom was absolute. Margaret stared at me, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. James, who had followed his mother downstairs, went pale. That's not possible, Margaret sputtered. You're just what? I asked quietly. A trophy wife, a girl from nowhere, the owner of this hotel and the entire Grand Haven chain. All of the above, actually. The whispers started. Of course, half the people here knew me as Ms. Chen, the businesswoman. They were just now connecting the dots. Ms. Chen, Thomas said loudly enough for everyone to hear. Shall I have the air conditioning repaired in the VIP lounge? No need, I replied. I think the party's moving back down here. I turned to the gathered crowd. Drinks are on the house, everyone. Consider it a birthday gift to my mother-in-law. The next hour was chaos. but the kind I'd orchestrated. Margaret's carefully curated VIP group dissolved as guests migrated back to the main ballroom. Many coming to greet me, not as James's wife, but as Ms. Chen, the CEO they'd worked with for years. James approached me, his face a mix of shock and something else. Was it admiration? "Why didn't you ever tell me?" he asked. "You never asked," I replied simply. "You were too busy defending your mother's assumptions about me." He flinched. "Lily, Ms. Chen, the mayor's wife, descended on us. I had no idea you were James's wife. You must join us for the charity gala planning next week." I smiled. Of course, though I usually prefer to be seated away from the kitchen. The mayor's wife had the grace to look embarrassed. She'd been at the VIP gathering after all. As the night wound down, I found Margaret sitting alone at what had been my table, staring at nothing. The irony wasn't lost on me. "The service is better here than you'd think," I told her, sliding into the seat next to her, despite the kitchen door. She turned to me, her carefully made-up face showing every year of her 60 years. "You've been laughing at me all this time," she said bitterly. "No, Margaret, I've been working all this time. Building something, just like you always wanted James to do." I stood up. "Happy birthday. The presidential suite is comped, of course. Family discount." I walked away, hearing her sharp intake of breath behind me. My phone buzzed. Andrew with updates about our new project in Dubai. Time to get back to work. The story wasn't over, of course. There would be fallout, explanations needed, relationships to rebuild or end. But for now, I had given Margaret exactly what she'd always wanted, a birthday party people would talk about for years to come. Just not for the reasons she'd planned. The morning after Margaret's birthday party, I woke up to 37 missed calls. Most were from James, who hadn't come home last night. A few from Sarah, probably checking on the fallout, and one from Margaret herself. I ignored them all and opened my laptop instead. The Asian markets were closing, and I had decisions to make. Being publicly revealed as Ms. Chen meant I could no longer maintain the careful separation between my personal and professional lives. Time to get ahead of the story. "Andrew," I said when he picked up, "schedule a press release. It's time to put a face to the Grand Haven brand." My phone buzzed again. "James." This time I answered. "Where are you?" His voice was rough, either from lack of sleep or too much drinking. "In my home office, where I am every morning at 7. You have a home office." I closed my eyes. 5 years of marriage, and he'd never once asked what was behind the double doors in our east wing. Had never wondered why I disappeared there for hours each day. "We need to talk," he said. "Yes, we do. But first, I have a board meeting. Come by my office, my real office, at noon." "Your office," he repeated, like the words were in a foreign language. "At the Chen Industries building downtown. 37th floor. Tell reception your wife is expecting you." I hung up before he could respond. There was a certain satisfaction in knowing he'd have to say those words, "my wife," to get to me now. The morning passed in a blur of meetings and damage control. Word had spread fast in our social circles about last night's revelation. My PR team was already fielding calls from business magazines wanting to know how Hartford's most successful female CEO had managed to keep such a low profile. At precisely noon, my assistant buzzed. "Mr. Williams is here. Send him in." James walked into my office like a man entering foreign territory. His eyes swept over the floor-to-ceiling windows, the modern art on the walls, the wall of awards I'd never displayed at home. He looked displaced in his casual clothes among the corporate sophistication. "You've been busy," he said finally. "For the past 15 years, yes." I gestured to the chair across from my desk, though you never noticed. He sat, running a hand through his disheveled hair. "Mom's a mess." Of course that's what he led with. Always his mother first. "Margaret's pride is hurt," I corrected. "She'll survive." "She says you humiliated her deliberately, set her up to fail at her own birthday party." "No, she set herself up by trying to humiliate me. I just chose not to play the role she assigned me." James shifted uncomfortably. "You could have told me about all this. Like you told me about agreeing to exclude me from the VIP section." He had the grace to look ashamed. "That was wrong. I should have stood up to her." "Yes, you should have. But you never do, James. And now I have to wonder, would knowing about my success have changed anything?" Or would you have just had a different excuse for letting your mother treat me like dirt? My intercom buzzed. Ms. Chen, Tokyo is calling. Tell them 5 minutes. I looked at James. I have a company to run. We can continue this conversation at home. He stood looking lost. When will you be home? When I finish work. Like always. Understanding finally dawned on his face. All those times he thought I was at yoga, or shopping, or lunch with friends, I'd been here, building an empire while playing the role his family had cast me in. The next few weeks were a crash course in reality for the Williams family. Margaret, unable to face her social circle after the party, fled to her sister's house in Florida. Sarah, who'd always been kinder than the rest, called to apologize for her years of condescension. I just assumed, she said, because Mom said. A lot of people assumed, I replied. That was their mistake. The business press had a field day with my story. Hidden CEO. The woman who built an empire in secret ran one headline. Trophy wife or business mogul. The double life of Lily Chen Williams declared another. I gave exactly one interview to a respected business journal. When asked why I'd kept my professional life separate, my answer was simple. Success speaks for itself. I didn't need to announce it. The article went viral. James moved into our guest room. We were in limbo, not quite separated, not quite together. He attended therapy, trying to understand his role in enabling his mother's behavior. I watched him struggle with the realization that his trophy wife was more successful than he'd ever be. Margaret returned from Florida after a month, considerably subdued. She requested a meeting through James. I'll see her at the hotel, I decided. In the VIP lounge. She arrived exactly on time, dressed with her usual elegance but missing her usual arrogance. Vincent served us drinks without being asked. Champagne for me, water for her. You've redecorated, she said, looking around the lounge. Yes, the whole hotel is being renovated. We're expanding. She flinched at the we. I suppose you want me to apologize. No, Margaret, I don't need your apology. What I want is for you to understand something. I leaned forward. I am not the woman you imagined me to be. I never was. Your son married a CEO, not a trophy. And if you want any relationship with us going forward, you need to accept that reality. And if I can't, then you'll miss out on a lot more than VIP access to my hotels. She took a shaky breath. James is in therapy. Yes. Because of me? Because of himself. He's finally facing his own role in our dynamics. She stirred her water, the ice cubes clinking against the glass. And you? Will you forgive him? That depends on James, on whether he wants to be a partner or just a son who never grew up. The renovation works echoed through the building. A fitting soundtrack to our conversation about rebuilding. I looked you up, Margaret said finally. Your company, your achievements, the charity work. She paused. The scholarship program for underprivileged girls. Someone has to help the girls from nowhere achieve their dreams. She flushed, recognizing her own cool words thrown back at her. As she left, she turned back one last time. For what it's worth, I was wrong about you. I know, I replied. I always knew. That evening, I found James in my home office, really looking at it for the first time. He was studying the framed photo on my desk, us on our wedding day. I was so proud that day, he said without turning around. Proud that someone as beautiful as you had chosen me. I never thought to be proud of anything else about you. And now? He turned, his eyes red. Now I'm ashamed. Of myself, of how I let Mom treat you, of how little I knew my own wife. He swallowed hard. But mostly I'm in awe. Of everything you've built, of how strong you are. I don't deserve you. Probably not, I agreed. But deserving me isn't the point, James. Supporting me is. Being a true partner is. Can you do that? I want to try. He gestured to my desk. Show me. Tell me about your company, your work. Everything I should have asked about years ago. I sat down in my chair, watching him settle into the visitor's seat, just like in my downtown office. But this time, he was ready to listen. It started 15 years ago. I began with one small hotel and a dream. 3 months after Margaret's birthday party, we hosted another event at the Grand Haven. The official launch of our Asian expansion, combined with the announcement of a new scholarship foundation for women in business. James stood beside me as I gave my speech, his hand supportive on my back. Margaret sat in the audience, Not in the VIP section, but not by the kitchen either. Progress comes in small steps. Sarah had joined my board of directors, bringing her legal expertise to the company. She'd broken free of Margaret's influence, finding her own voice in the process. As for me, I was finally fully myself. Lily Chen Williams, CEO of Grand Haven Hotels, and a woman who had built her success one careful brick at a time. No more hiding, no more playing small to soothe others' insecurities. The trophy wife was gone. In her place stood what had been there all along, a woman who had built an empire while others underestimated her. A woman who had turned assumptions into advantages and silence into strength. After all, sometimes the best revenge isn't just success. It's success on your own terms. The weather was unseasonably cold for September as I climbed into our attic, armed with boxes and cleaning supplies. After 15 years of marriage, Marcus had announced he wanted a divorce, and I was determined to sort through everything before he could twist that narrative too. My name is Deanna Walker, and until 3 days ago, I thought I knew who my husband was. We met in college. He was the charming business major everyone loved, and I was the quiet computer science student who somehow caught his eye. At least that's how he always told the story. I pulled another box toward me, this one labeled Old Kiss. Inside was a tangled mess of cords, chargers, and outdated devices. At the bottom, I found Marcus's old laptop from his first job after graduation. "You can throw all that away," his voice made me jump. He stood at the top of the attic stairs, watching me with that new coldness in his eyes. "None of it works anymore." I clutched the laptop closer. "I'll sort through it myself, thanks." He shrugged, that familiar dismissive gesture that had become his signature move lately. "Suit yourself. Just make sure you're done by weekend. I want this wrapped up quickly." Of course he did. He'd already started telling people his version of events, how I'd grown distant, how I'd failed to support his career, how I'd changed. Our friends were already taking sides, most believing his carefully crafted story without question. After he left, I examined the laptop more closely. It was at least 12 years old, probably dead, but something made me want to check. I plugged in the charger, pressed the power button, and waited. Nothing happened. I was about to give up when I remembered something from my hardware recovery classes in college. Sometimes, even when a laptop won't boot, you can still access the hard drive. I carefully opened the case and removed the drive, then connected it to my external reader. For a moment, nothing happened. Then my screen lit up with folders. Most were empty or corrupted, but one caught my eye. BAFQ_2008. Inside was a single file, a video that had been deleted but not completely erased from the drive. My hands shook as I ran my recovery software. It took nearly an hour, but finally, the video played. The timestamp showed October 15, 2008, 2 months after Marcus started his first job at Palmer Financial. The video was shaky, clearly recorded on an old phone, but the audio was clear enough. "Just sign here, Mr. Reynolds," Marcus's voice came through. "Everything's taken care of." The elderly man in the video looked confused, but my daughter said, "Your daughter doesn't understand finance like I do," Marcus cut in smoothly. "Trust me, this is the best option for your retirement. Sign here and here." I felt sick watching it. Mr. Reynolds, I remembered him. He'd been one of Marcus's first clients, a widower with a substantial retirement fund. 6 months after this video, he lost everything in what Marcus called a market downturn. But the video didn't end there. After Mr. Reynolds left, Marcus turned to someone off camera. "Got it all?" he asked, grinning. Old man didn't even read the transfer documents. By the time anyone figures it out, the money will be long gone. "You sure about this?" another voice asked. "If anyone finds out." "Who's going to find out?" Marcus laughed. "The trades are buried under shell companies. Besides, who'd believe him over me? I'm the golden boy around here." I stopped the video, my mind racing. This wasn't just unethical, it was illegal. And if this video was from 2008, I dove back into the hard drive, looking for anything else that might have survived deletion. Most files were corrupted beyond recovery, but I found fragments, emails, spreadsheets, more videos. Each piece painted a clearer picture of who Marcus really was. He hadn't just scammed Mr. Reynolds. There were others, dozens of clients whose trust he'd betrayed, whose money he'd stolen through carefully hidden transactions. all while building his reputation as one of Boston's most respected financial advisors. No wonder he wanted that laptop thrown away. I was still processing everything when my phone buzzed. A message from Sarah, my best friend since college. Or at least she had been until yesterday, when she told me she needed space to process everything Marcus had told her. "How could you do this to him?" Her text read, "He gave you everything and you just checked out of the marriage. He's heartbroken." I stared at the message, anger building in my chest. Marcus had always been good at playing the victim, at making people see exactly what he wanted them to see. He'd done it with our friends, with his clients, probably with me for all these years. But this time, I had proof. My hands steady now, I started copying everything from the hard drive. Videos, fragments, all of it. Then I opened my laptop and began what I did best, following the digital trail. Because if there was one thing I'd learned in 15 years of marriage to Marcus, it was that men like him never stop at just one lie. This video from 2008 was just the beginning. I needed to find everything. I worked through the night, my fingers flying over the keyboard as I dug deeper into Marcus's digital history, my computer science background. The skills he'd always dismissed as cute and nerdy were now my greatest weapons. By morning, I had a clearer picture. The scams hadn't stopped in 2008. They'd just gotten more sophisticated. Marcus had built his entire career on fraud, using each success to target bigger clients, bigger accounts. He'd hidden it well, but in the digital age, nothing is ever truly deleted. I was cross-referencing bank records when I heard him coming up the attic stairs again. "Still at it?" he asked, leaning against the doorframe. "You know, Diana, this would be easier if you just accept that it's over. Sign the papers, take the settlement I'm offering, and we can both move on." I looked up at him, seeing him clearly for the first time. The charming smile, the confident stance, it was all part of his act. Had I ever really known him at all? "I need more time," I said carefully, "to process everything." He frowned slightly. "There's nothing to process. We're done. Unless," his voice took on a harder edge, "you're planning to make this difficult." I thought about the evidence sitting on my encrypted drive, about all the lives he'd ruined while building his perfect facade. "No," I said quietly. "No difficulties. I just need a few more days." He studied me for a moment, then nodded. "Fine. 3 days. Then I want those divorce papers signed." After he left, I pulled out my phone and called the one person I knew could help me make sense of everything I found. "Mike, it's Diana Walker. I know it's been years, but I need your help. It's about Marcus." Mike Chen had been my study partner in our advanced encryption class. Now he was a forensic accountant specializing in financial fraud. If anyone could help me understand the full scope of what Marcus had done, it was him. "Send me what you have," he said after I explained. "And Diana, be careful. Men like Marcus, when they realize they're about to lose everything, they get dangerous." I looked at the attic window, watching Marcus drive away in his expensive car, bought with money stolen from people who trusted him. "I know," I said, "but he's not the only one who can play a long game." I had 3 days before he expected those divorce papers signed. 3 days to unravel 15 years of lies. Game on, Marcus. The next morning, I sat in Mike's downtown office, watching his face as he reviewed my findings. The sun was barely up, but I'd been too wired to sleep. Every hour brought new discoveries, new layers to Marcus's deception. Mike shook his head, scrolling through the documents I'd recovered. "Diana, do you realize what you've uncovered here?" The video was just the beginning. These transactions, the way he structured everything, we're looking at millions in fraud. I nodded, clutching my coffee cup. "I know, and that's just what I found so far. There has to be more." "There is." Mike turned his monitor toward me. "Look at these patterns. The money doesn't just disappear. It moves through a series of shell companies before ending up in offshore accounts. Very sophisticated. Very illegal. Can we trace it?" He nodded slowly. "With time, yes. But Diana..." He paused, his expression serious. "This isn't just about your divorce anymore. This is major securities fraud. People's lives have been destroyed." "I know," I said quietly. "That's why I came to you. I need to know what to do next." Mike leaned back in his chair, thinking. "First, we secure everything you found. I'm going to bring in some colleagues, people I trust who specialize in this kind of fraud. Then we build the case properly, and Diana?" His voice softened. "You need to be very careful. Marcus can't know you found any of this." I thought about Marcus's face in the attic, that flash of something hard in his eyes. He won't. I've gotten pretty good at playing my part. Over the next 48 hours, I lived a double life. During the day, I played the role of the soon-to-be ex-wife, sorting through belongings and avoiding Marcus's cold stares. But at night, I worked with Mike and his team, piecing together the full extent of Marcus's crimes. The numbers were staggering. Over 15 years, he'd stolen more than $12 million from various clients, always careful to target those least likely to fight back. Elderly retirees, recently widowed spouses, people who trusted his charming smile and seemingly perfect reputation. "He's good," one of Mike's colleagues admitted as we reviewed another set of transactions. "The way he layered everything, using legitimate investments to hide the fraudulent ones. If you hadn't found that video, this might never have come to light." But I had found it, and now there was no going back. The morning of the third day, when I was supposed to sign the divorce papers, I woke up to find Marcus sitting in our kitchen, a stack of documents in front of him. "Time's up," he said pleasantly, sliding the papers toward me. "Let's get this done." I sat down across from him, studying his face. The man I'd married, or thought I'd married. Somewhere in there was the college student who'd once brought me coffee during late-night study sessions, who'd promised to love me forever. "Before I sign," I said carefully, "I want to talk about the settlement." His eyes narrowed slightly. "We've been through this. The prenup is clear. You get the house and a monthly payment. More than fair, considering." "Considering what?" "Considering you've contributed nothing to my success," he said, his mask slipping just a bit. "I built everything we have, Diana. My career, my reputation. Your lies?" The words slipped out before I could stop them. He went very still. "What did you say?" I took a deep breath. "Keep calm," I told myself. "Don't show your hand yet." "Nothing," I said quickly. "Just thinking about how things turned out." He relaxed slightly, but I could see suspicion lingering in his eyes. "Sign the papers, Diana. Then we can both move on." I picked up the pen, my hand steady. "You're right. Time to move on." I signed my name on each marked line, watching his satisfaction grow with each signature. He thought he'd won, thought he'd managed to discard me as easily as he'd discarded all those clients he betrayed. "Perfect," he said, gathering the papers. "I'll have my lawyer file these today. Don't worry about moving out immediately. Take a few days to pack." He stood up, straightening his expensive tie. Always the perfect picture of success. "Oh, and Diana," he paused at the door. "I know this is hard, but you'll thank me someday. You and I both know you're not cut out for the kind of life I need to live." I waited until I heard his car pull away before pulling out my phone. "Mike," he signed, just like you said he would. "Good," Mike's voice was grim. "Because we're ready to. The FBI is very interested in everything we found." The next part happened exactly as we planned. While Marcus was at his office, probably congratulating himself on managing such a clean break, federal agents were executing search warrants at every location we'd identified. His office, his storage units, even the secret apartment he maintained under one of his shell companies. I was sitting in our living room when I heard cars pulling into the driveway. Through the window, I watched Marcus get out of his BMW, only to be met by FBI agents. His face, when they showed him their badges, was something I'll never forget. "Marcus Walker," one agent said clearly, "we need you to come with us. We have some questions about your business practices." He looked up at the house, his eyes meeting mine through the window. In that moment, I saw the realization hit him, the understanding that his carefully constructed world was about to crumble. I held up the old laptop so he could see it. The aftermath was both faster and slower than I expected. The evidence was overwhelming, not just what I found on the laptop, but everything Mike and his team had uncovered once they knew where to look. Marcus's entire career had been built on fraud, each success enabling bigger crimes. Within weeks, the story was all over the financial news. "Respected advisor charged in massive fraud scheme," the headlines read. Former clients came forward, each with their own story of trust betrayed. The man who'd spent years building a reputation as Boston's golden boy was revealed as nothing more than a sophisticated thief. Sarah, my former best friend, called me crying. "Diana, I'm so sorry," she sobbed. "I should have known, should have believed you." "Yes," I said quietly, You should have. I didn't tell her about the laptop, about my role in exposing everything. Let her think it was just luck or karma. Some friendships, once broken, can't be repaired. 6 months later, I sat in a courtroom watching Marcus being sentenced. He pleaded guilty, hoping for leniency, but the judge wasn't feeling merciful. 20 years in federal prison, plus restitution to his victims. He looked old suddenly, stripped of his expensive suits and carefully maintained image. As they led him away, he glanced back at me one last time. I met his gaze steadily, remembering all the times he dismissed me, belittled my career choices, treated me like I was somehow less than him. The quiet computer science student who'd never quite fit into his perfect world had brought down his entire empire. After the sentencing, Mike found me outside the courthouse. "You okay?" he asked gently. I thought about the question. Was I okay? My 15-year marriage had been a lie. My husband was going to prison. Most of our friends had abandoned me when the truth came out. But I was free. Free from the subtle manipulation, the constant feeling that I wasn't good enough. Free to be myself again. "Yes," I said finally. "I think I am." A week later, I sold the house. The proceeds, along with everything else Marcus and I had owned, went into a fund for his victims. I kept only what I'd brought into the marriage and what I'd earned through my own career. I found a small apartment near the tech company where I'd recently accepted a position as head of cybersecurity. The irony wasn't lost on me. My cute computer skills had turned out to be far more valuable than Marcus's financial genius. Sometimes, late at night, I think about that old laptop in the attic, about how close I came to throwing it away without checking. One small decision had changed everything. But mostly, I think about the lesson I learned from all of this. The truth has a way of surviving, of waiting to be found by someone willing to look deep enough. Marcus had spent 15 years building his lies, but in the end he'd forgotten one crucial detail. In the digital age, nothing is ever truly deleted. Not files, not fraud, and certainly not the truth. I keep the laptop now, cleaned up and restored. Not because I need it anymore. All the evidence is with the FBI, but as a reminder that sometimes justice comes not from dramatic confrontations or public accusations, but from quiet persistence and the willingness to dig deeper than anyone expects. Marcus had always underestimated me. He'd seen what he wanted to see, the quiet wife who would accept his lies and play her part in his perfect life. He never understood that sometimes the quietest people are the ones you should watch most carefully. Because we're the ones who see everything, who wait patiently, who know that the truth, like deleted files on an old hard drive, is always there if you know where to look.